Yeah, unfortunately, though, as we always see, all of Infamous's supports are very level dependent. They all need to be level 6 around that 10-minute mark. Pre 10 minutes into the game, they're gonna just kind of be walking around. They really are gonna hit their stride once they do get those abilities, and then we're gonna see the game kind of begin for them. But before then, I think Hikori, they can probably get away with some stuff, especially they pick such a strong laner like that CK. And it is pretty satisfying, to be honest, to see a little bit of a spread of the strength here this time. We're not seeing your DK, CK, Timbersaw, Kunkka all on one team. That kind of stalls the game out quite a lot, but I think there's a lot of balance in both of these lineups.
And there is still maybe a potential question here on the Hokori side about where that CK goes, because we have still sort of been mentioning it as, at this point, almost maybe just a due diligence thing about the CK still having the potential to play in that offlane. I think more often than not, we've seen it start shifting more to the carry position, and putting it in Yuma's hands would certainly not feel that bad for the side. However, it's worth repeating. Vitali could simply take it himself, and then they could look to that carry role again. Infamous, however, don't really seem to be buying into that. Final bans of Broodmother and Death Prophet, so they're pretty sure Hokori are just going to go with the recent trend and put Yuma on Chaos Knight.
Yeah, and I think the DP would have felt pretty nice here. It's that balance where Hikori don't really want to pick another melee hero to lane up with the Nyx Assassin. If they could, they would love a ranged hero to harass against whatever Infamous pick up here for Parker. At the same time, though, if Infamous aren't too careful here, they are going to show both their carry and their 5 at the same time. So Hikori, if they really need to, they could go for their 24 pick offlaner. I think Hikori's been last picking their offlaner more so than any other team. They've always gotten really just that kind of last pick, foot in the door, slam it in. And I think the Broodmother is just because it is Vitali. Vitali is a scary guy. If you do give him the Brood, it could come out, and then you're just kind of caught none the wiser. If they see a pretty weak carry here, I'd hazard to say they could look for something like the Beastmaster that we've seen get a little bit of popularity. That's your classic offlaner that just does well versus melee heroes in general, like the Clockwork, where even if the Clockwork is able to get on top of him, you have to force slow. The approach is very difficult. And then once you start sticking all of these abilities in front of you, then the game really does start to get hard. At the same time, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of the first game of the day and I'm hopeful. I almost feel like Hikori might pick Visage, and I hope I'm wrong, but there's something about it that I think might be there for them. As safe lane Kunkka for Parker, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, not something I think we've seen them run too many times, but we know that Kunkka can still very much play the one, might be a little more damage oriented in that position as well. So see what the itemization looks like for him. In the meantime, yeah, going back to Hokori, you mentioned they're one of the teams that sort of last picks their offlaner more than anyone else. I think that just comes down to how versatile Vitali is in terms of his pool, compared to a lot of the other offlaners who just kind of really hone in on what heroes are in the meta. Vitali can always bust out things like the Brood, or uh, maybe if your instincts are correct, the position 3 Visage here as well. So we'll see what they choose. They've got 30 seconds on the board here, so they can take their time with this one, but I don't know. At this point, it feels like Hokori have multiple directions they can take this in. They've got some lockdown already, so maybe they don't need to feel hard pressed for an initiator in that role, which does free up Vitali to play something maybe a little bit more damage oriented. But okay, that is certainly something that can do quite a bit more damage. Still does have some soft lockdown to work with as well, but well, Infamous, even if they can deal with it, it's not going to be fun when you get last pick Viper.
Yeah, it's a really annoying lane for Parker. And I knew once they picked the Kunkka, we weren't going to see the Beastmaster. That's just not something you want to do. Your creeps just kind of die. But this is an interesting route to take it because, well, typically, this is a pretty bad Viper game, to be honest. You don't want to deal with spells like the X Mark. You don't want to be dealing with really A's hero in general. Clockwork is very good at you. The cog pushback, the hook shot, battery assault in itself is very obnoxious. Vitali can't turn around, walk away, and poison attack while that battery assault is on him. It's just not in the cards here. Not to mention the rest of the lineup also has a little bit of that reposition, a little bit of that awkwardness when it comes to you being that far forward, and Viper very naturally plays very far up. I think that's where El Micho needs to be really careful, but also needs to be in front of Vitaly pretty much this entire game. You need that threat of the Carapace stun. You need that really just peel ability to get Vitaly out of those situations, because aside from the lane, once these lanes do start to break down, if Vitaly ever catches himself in an arena, in an X mark, into boat, into very simply a TP setup from alone, into supports on top of him, it's a really easy game to die as this Viper.
Going to be incredibly effective so long as he can maintain that separation, which, I mean, technically speaking, kind of applies to all of Hokori, but the Viper in particular, as you just outlined, if there are heroes in his face, he just really doesn't stack up as well. So, see what Hokori can do. El Micho's going to be there. You even have your Invoker who can maybe get some spells in to maintain that distance as well. So, if it works, it's going to look pretty damn good. If the pressure is on them, then, well, they're not always the most durable with this lineup, but we'll see how this plays out.
That was a super fast pause.
Wow, yeah.
Alone was ready. But yeah, should be fairly interesting. I think really if this lane doesn't get started and A maybe gets picked off a few too many times, I could see Parker very simply just get level 5 and then start rotating into the jungle. That's kind of the breaking point for Kunkka and how fast he can actually farm. The cooldown's just finally good enough. Of course, level 7 would be ideal, but I feel like that's not in the cards for this game. At the same time though, think Hikori with this Invoker, they've got the more active mid laner, right? You have a limited amount of plays you can make on the Storm Spirit. You're constantly bound by your mana pool without having anyone to reset you. If Alone's rotations start to fail, then he will fall behind, and he doesn't have that Pugna giving him another reset, giving him another hero. He doesn't have that Chakra magic
มี
to
นัก
keep
แบ่ง
him
ตะ
out
กี้นัก
onto the
สวม
map.
มีนัก
It's
นักสวม
where
มาแจ
Infamous need to actually find pickoffs
เอ
pretty
นัก
consistently
นัก
with
เห็
the
น
Storm
นะ
Spirit. Otherwise, Alone's game could get a little bit messy, or we'll have to see that older style of Storm Spirit where you have to make a very conscious choice. Do you use your mana to farm and then keep ahead with the mid laner that you usually typically start walking away from, or do you constantly look for rotations and then fall behind if they don't end up working out? It's where Infamous do kind of need to hit here. Hikori can really deal with the blows a lot better.
Of course, that is a pitfall or a concern that technically can still apply to the Invoker as well. We've seen that quite a bit where you try to get active early on the Invoker, and if you don't find those kills, then you start falling behind on your farming time as well. So both mid laners are going to have to be sort of walking that tightrope, right? You want them to be making these plays, but you need to make sure you're either committing for them or that you're still farming efficiently in between those attempts. Otherwise, Invoker doesn't really do so fantastically in terms of catching up once he's fallen behind on farm.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the minimap. It's
It's
funny.
drawn all over.
I believe it was Yuma and who is yeah, it was Yuma and Vitali. They had the nice pretty lines here, and then Elmisha's just, I'm sick of this. He's just been he's just having a ball with it, but oh
เอ
my god, the
นัก
map
เห็
it's
นนักเห็น
shrinking.
นะ
Just pure chaos. That's what Elmisha is all about. But yeah, we are still paused. Unfortunately, I don't actually know which side paused. The game was not paying attention when it happened. Nobody's DC'd, so hopefully it's nothing too serious here, and we can get underway fairly soon. In the meantime, though, everyone's just gonna keep scribbling on. But
Is that scribbling? That looks like art. That's
no,
what I call it.
sometimes scribbles can be art. 2022, man.
It's really, I still don't understand what he does. I still don't get it. It's been what? It's been like half a year. Still does this. uh,
มีนักแบ่งมาตะ
G,
กี้นั
let's
กสว
go.
ม
Oh, hey,
นัก
there it
สวมมา
is.
ตะกี้นักแบ่ง
The lines are fun, but Dota's a little bit fun. So we will get things underway here. Both sides ready to go after a little bit of a mystery pause at the start, but that just adds intrigue, ET. That just adds a sense of wonder. That's what we're all about here. But we're gonna get things underway. Dual smokes coming out from both sides. We'll see if this is gonna be a fight or if this is just another race for the Vision alone. Already has the ward here, so it looks like he is going to reach that middle lane first. Where does he put it, though? Right smack dab in the middle. Okay. Fair enough.
That's pretty satisfying. It's a nice place to put it, even though Analog kind of banging it out. Possibly seeing that Alone has an empty slot in his inventory, so kind of makes sense here. But as long as they can claim these two high grounds, we'll have to see if there's actually a sentry on Infamous assigned to go down there and D-word, which I don't think is there. So looks like they're going to have this great vision on this bottom area of the map for Hokori to make those rotations, especially for the Nyx Assassin. And what we should see from Hokori every 2 minutes, supports leaving their lane, finding moments, getting pulls off at that half-minute mark, and then rotating. So that way the Storm Spirit really starts to fall behind. If Alone does not get a bottle, it's where Michael maybe spends all of his mana, walks back to base, has to refill it. It's where you want to force that pressure off of your other side lanes. Because again, the stronger these Infamous side lanes are, the more likely you're going to get played on. But yep, that's unlucky from Gardic. And now they know exactly where the ward is, but can't do anything about it.
That is... I was going to say sneaky. I mean, I guess technically it is, but what's really sneaky about just putting a ward at the top of a ramp in the middle of the lane? But apparently it works. It baits out a sentry ward. As you said, now they know where that obs is on the other side, but now it's too late to really get it before the laning stage starts. So Gardic, that's going to sting a little bit. You miss with the sentry. He took 2 tower shots as well. He'll walk off that damage, but it's the drop to the morale that's really it. It's all about the mind games.
It is all about the mind games, as we always get to see. Interested to see he actually took the Netherward level 1, which is okay, giving a little bit more damage out whenever you do see Oscar or Michael go for the range creeps, but now Gardic can't secure the range creeps with the Nether Blast, so I hope Human doesn't start falling behind in XP, because that is a pretty big concern, to be honest.
Gardic's able to throw down a sentry
There he
there,
is.
so blocks the camp, but yeah, Michael is going in for the snipe, and that wasn't even the supports, that was Yuma's courier as well, so it's going to be very unfortunate for the CK. Courier down for just a little bit, and some extra money into the Hoodwink's hands as Michael, yep, he saw that as well. Sort of just able to track the Tracer Bolt from that ward. He can't actually finish it off just yet, but he knows where it is. He is going to try and get in there, but Gardic's just going to stand guard over his own Nether ward.
Yeah, it's really interesting to actually see the Pugna play versus the Hoodwink, as I think bottom lane, that's your first blood, that's your Viper. It's a great way for Vitaly to start his game here.
Parker doesn't have any defensive capabilities at the moment. Level 2 Kunkka going to be able to do enough there, and as you said, that's exactly what you want. That did cost Vitaly basically all of his mana, but going to have a clarity passed over to him, so should be potentially good to go for another round of aggression when the Clockwork returns, and yep, coming right back into the lane. Had to stop to pick up Parker's boots before he could complete that TP, so acting as that sort of faster courier for his team, as I think he wanted the pushback there, not the trap. Elmisha doesn't really suffer any damage, but Vitaly needs to conserve mana because he wants to have enough to just go in straight for a kill, which means he's not going to have the opportunity to sort of harass in that scenario.
Yeah, and that is the thing with Viper. If you can get an early first blood, it's great, but level 1 poison attack is not the greatest. You want to be waiting for level 3, and then the trades can really be made. You can get 5 attacks off, though. Like that, it does feel a little bit more worth it, but that's where A is very obnoxious. But the Mango, he got brought out pretty much everything. He has a pseudo Aqua, I guess you could say right now, on Vitaly with his first blood gold, so that man's going to be less of a concern. The Tidebringer harass, though, is going to be obnoxious pretty much the entire laning stage, but it is where once Vitaly is level 3, now there is that threat of just kind of dying if you're in the lane.
Gray on the Clockwork here, really, this is just the play you have to try and make. Get that mana burn in from the cogs if you can. Not quite as easy as just sort of saying it as what's going on here. Michael running Gardic all the way underneath the tier 2 tower, not able to secure the kill, however, but push the Pugna out of lane for a little bit, but now what does Michael look to do with this? He's starting to rotate his way towards mid. It's a little early to try and sort of go for the water rune play, but looks like at this point he's not going to stick around for that. He was just trying to bully up the Pugna. Now he'll just make his way back to the lane, or he won't. He's around, tries to get into position, and we'll see if there's a contest here for that rune as Elmisha gets picked off in the bottom lane. able to strike back there a little bit. A gets in with the level 2 battery assault, and they found their first kill on the Infamous side.
Yeah, it's quite nice. At least you're giving all of that soul XP over to the Viper now, and well, the rotation comes. Analog gets one of the water runes. You got that top rune secured out by that Hoodwink, but yeah, it's a really nice kill. Really easy kill in the bottom lane, and that's where if the lane does ever get too far forward, both the Viper and the Nyx Assassin are just that vulnerable, and A is ooh, not going to give XP over to the Nyx. That's a really tight suicide.
The tier 2 tower denies himself quite nicely, and he is, does he have his TP? Yeah, he does, so he should be just fine to return to that lane. In the meantime, Parker, he's by himself, but he's able to pull the creep wave back underneath that tier 1 tower, so really anything that can be done directly to him at the moment, and Parker really has just been minding his own business in this lane. They got that 1 kill onto El Misho. Other than that, he's just been kind of farming and trying his best to avoid being in a position where Vitaly can just start stacking points backs up onto him.
Yeah, and really, this is one of the only times we've actually seen Amisha get to make a pull happen. And really, if there were more pulls happening early on in the game, I could see Parker being a little bit more upset. But he's about to be level 5. Then, if he really needs to go, he can go. But I think that's where, with your Storm Spirit getting level 6 on Infamous's side, they want to look for a punish play, especially if they could get eyes on the Invoker and then get that Storm rotating, not need to worry about a tornado from the trees. Yeah, they're doing it, and
He's not
a
actually
little bit.
6 yet, though.
Yeah, they need 2 creeps. Oh, A's
Get a
starting though early.
Okay.
Okay, there it is.
Okay. They've got it. They get the X, they get the Torrent, they have the Battery Assault. Analog, though, TP's in with a beautiful tornado into the EMP, but still not enough. Alone zips his way past it. Tali does get taken down. A might die in exchange here, but the cores are more concerned with a secondary kill. They do get El Misho, and with both of the other heroes in this lane gone, Analog didn't really feel confident enough to keep pushing for the kill onto the Clockwork. So A lives, and your Invoker's rotation's a little empty there. Oh, hold up. A, very close to the Invoker again, but going to be able to back himself off. So you get 2 kills on the Infamous side, don't really lose anything, and your Invoker had to step out of lane.
Yeah, and I think a rotation that really caught off Hokori off guard there. They shouldn't expect a level 5 Storm Spirit who should be jungling or in the fountain to make that play. At the same time, usually it's bad business on Storm Spirit to rotate during those rune timings. Usually you want to stick around near that river so that way, you have the possibility of getting a regen or an arcane. So I think those two aspects just caught Hokori off guard, and even though Analog rotates, it's a rotation that I think he really wishes he hadn't made because that is free XP that he really missed out on, and no kills, nothing going his way, and really with that one rotation, lanes are kind of fixed. Parker gets to jungle now, everything gets to chill out across the map. Alone is looking to make maybe another rotation here. He's got his boots now. He's got, of course, that level 6, but I don't know if they have enough damage necessarily with a pre-level 6 Hoodwink. That might be a little bit rough here, especially if they want to kill him the CK. Maybe with the Mars.
Gonna give it a go. There's the Vortex, into the arena, into the Spear Stun, into the Bushwhack. Do they have enough? I think they do. It wasn't easy, but they will find it, so rotation will work. Oscar, with his first ult of the game, is going to be able to hit home there onto a high-value target, and while all of that was happening, there was a rotation from Hokori down towards the bottom lane. 3 heroes move in, but Parker sees the move coming and simply TPs away. Now he's got his boots of travel, so this is a very mobile Kunkka who's not going to be losing out on much farming time no matter what.
Yeah, and even though he might not be the best stack taker now with this build-up, just not needing to buy TPs the rest of the game, having those X's, it's very obnoxious to actually deal with. But hey, you're getting this bottom tower if you're Hokori. You're pushing in pretty easily. It's where Analog has spent most of its time, giving the lane up to Gardic, which I could completely understand. Only way Gardic really dies here is if there's a full mana Storm Spirit, and as we already talked about, there's a finite amount of plays Alone can make, so once that death happens top on the CK, then Gardic should be fine for the immediate future.
Alone using all of his resources there to take the stack, which means he's going to have to head back to base. In the meantime, you do have Clockwork close to his hook shot, so could see a little bit more aggression coming out from Infamous once he hits that mark. And Oscar also staying active, keeps pushing out that top lane, takes the tier 1 tower, and Infamous starting to build up a modest net worth. Hasn't even cracked 1K, but got some momentum. They've got double the kill count early on. The only real concern at this point for them is the fact that Yuma hasn't really been slowed down other than that singular death as alone. Let's try to make a move onto El Misho. There's the Carapace, though, and it's really not going to happen for him. But alone creating a little bit of a distraction, maybe, as they were eyeing up Vitali in that top lane, but they don't really have a great way in. Michael would basically just have to bum rush and go for the bushwhack into the arena, and don't really want to dive the tier 2 tower with that plan in particular.
Yeah, I think just the ghost ship A, it was coming in from the trees. Vitali just was able to walk away barely in time. So now a lot of that aggression is actually going to need to fade away here. But they're still filling the map very nicely. Hokori are just as level bound as their opponents here. Once Amisha gets level 6, maybe we can see some more setups with the Vendetta. But until then, we kind of are biding our time here. Well, Oscar, though, he can get aggressive. He's still a guy with Arena. He doesn't want to use it, though. Doesn't need to. That's a really free kill. Oh,
Alone's going to look for a second. He actually spots Vitali here. He used a lot of mana, actually all his mana, and he's dead, and A hooked into a creep camp, and it's all starting to fall apart now. As Oscar going to get hit by the tornado into the EMP, the Reality Rift pulls him back in, and they're going to be losing Mars too. That's one of the most abrupt swings I think I've ever seen. They just go from a nice, easy pickoff onto a Pugna to suddenly having 2 cores dead.
yeah, very bizarre. I feel as if they make that rotation because there is the hook shot, because A is slightly higher level than I think even he's ready for. They had the Coliseum as well, but it all kind of comes down to Alone overextending with the DD. And then, unfortunately, killing this Viper is really easy on the Storm Spirit, but not if you're taking that Nether Toxin. You lose out half your damage with the Overload, so unless you're really right on top of that Viper, it just simply doesn't work. And now mid.
For Analog, Sharpshooter hit onto Vitali rather than the Invoker, so now they're going to start turning this fight. Misho's coming in, waiting for his moment. He's going to get the Vendetta hit to finish Oscar off. Affliction, though, good hook onto the back line. A's able to take down Analog, so they snipe out that kill, and with Parker back in, they could look to turn this one around. They're going to drop the X onto Misho. They'll get the Torrent onto him as well, but do they really want to go back in at this point? The answer looks like no, but they were at least able to turn that into that trade-off. It seemed for a moment that the Invoker was going to get away, but A is able to sort of salvage the 1-1.
Yeah, it is a really great hook shot, but again, very awkward. The aggression is a little bit too much, I think. If Oscar's Arena is slightly better placed as well, when Vitali TP'd in, he was actually able to get inside of the arena, which I think is what really ended up killing the Mars there, because you ended up eating the Viper poison attacks as well as the Viper strike, so it just became fairly ugly. There is, however, a huge ancient stack right now, and if they could contest it, it's going to take quite a bit, especially with the Kunkka's buildup. Not going to be the freest ancient stack ever. If Hokori know about it, I feel like they could just place themselves in between that mid tower and the ancient stack, and then Infamous are put in a really tight spot.
Not appear that Hokori sort of have that intel at the moment, though. So Parker is going to be free to take it very, very slowly, but he will work his way through it with the Tidebringer. So once he picks this up, I mean, there's going to be a substantial amount of gold that might pretty much get him, maybe not quite all the way, but pretty damn close to finishing off that early BKB. So his progression is going to look quite nice. Should be able to maybe leapfrog over that CK as well as you take a look at Yuma. Got the armlet for himself. Looks like he's got a BKB queued up as well. So this is going to be an important sort of turning point for both teams. Both squads went for a position 1 hero that's going to be able to contribute to fights, I think, more often than just the sort of usual hyper carries we've been seeing. But if both carries are in the fight at the same time, then, well, it's still going to come down to the execution, as El Misho is a little bit of spy work here. Hopefully he doesn't get spotted. The problem is, yeah, his teammate is the one who gets spotted, and he's far more valuable, and they cannot protect him. Analog taken down. El Misho is going to reveal himself, and okay, stuns the Clockwork. That's a little neat drive-by play with the Carapace, but really going to help turn any sort of secondary fight around.
Yeah, I honestly am a little bit worried about this Invoker's buildup. He went for the Spirit Vessel, and large part due to just having that tick damage versus the Kunkka, I believe. But uh, without having those early force staffs built up, uh, A is just going to be so much more effective of the clockwork. I'm really surprised across the board not seeing anyone making that direct progression. Understand maybe a little bit more so for Vitali wanting that early BKB, as that is kind of where we're at in Dota, where you just need a BKB to make the team fights happen. But at the same time, without those force staffs, it's going to be way more difficult to play this game. It's going to give A actual hook shots that he can play around. At least El Misho's looking for one, but even then, they need like 3 or 4. And then A is useless, but until then, he can always find that opening.
Speaking of openings, though, Michael is alone in the top lane, and for a moment there, Elmisha was sort of maneuvering his way over, but Nyx Assassin doesn't have the damage for that himself, and if Analog just sort of abandons a creep wave to go charging at your Hoodwink, then Michael definitely knows that something is up, so stars don't align for them on that one. Hokori just content at the moment to continue farming, really, and not a bad strategy for them as of right now, but you start to wonder which squad's going to make the next move, because, I mean, all the heroes who would need to have their ults for a fight currently have them.
Yeah, Oscar finished up his Blink Dagger as well in the Mars. I feel like as soon as Alone is done farming out this Ancient Camp, we should see them probably make a play here. If they make a jump on this mid tower as well, right now with the card alive, then, well, they would get a lot of damage onto that mid tier one on the Corey side. But it's where I think both teams are so good at pushing out waves. Everybody's creep clear is pretty great. So these mid towers really have not taken a lot of hate. There hasn't been those easy opportunities. It's always been in these jungle areas that we've seen these skirmishes happen, and Analog needs to be a little bit careful. But the more time Analog takes this unsafe farm, the more time Yuma gets to really build himself up here. And we're going to see a clash of BKBs. You're going to have BKB on your Kunkka at around the same time you're going to have it on the CK. And I feel like that's got to favor the CK a little bit here, just because of his ability to get on those backline. Kunkka can really only stay on one target with the X mark. I think the CK is a little bit more adept at making those larger scale team fights happen, and with it being able to ignore the arena, that's definitely scary as A. Amisha, though.
Oscar will find, yeah, he will find the return play. They get the arena into the sharpshooter snipe out, so it's a complicated support trade, but that really is kind of all it is at the end of the day. Everybody backs off, so not a whole lot lost from either side. However, you have Infamous sort of grouping up a little bit here. Their siege creep needs to be protected if they want serious damage onto this tower, which apparently they don't because they let it go, but are still eyeing up the Invoker here. He is so close to that vision line. But, ooh, that's a very nice scan as well. They know that somebody's in this tree line. Amisho is... It's going to kind of be the one to TP in here and maybe see what's going on. See that there's 3 heroes in that tree line waiting, and that's Analog's cue to back up.
Yeah, it's really close. I feel like if Analog traverses a little bit closer, gets played up in there, nice zip dodge to not get hit by the tornado. At the same time, looking over at the Storm Spirits build, he has an Orchid. It's not your typical null setup that we've seen before. I think it's because of the supports that are on the Hokori side. The Nyx Assassin, you know, he's pretty feeble if you can get him silenced up, but at the same time, Alone isn't really able to make those long jumps that we're typically known for seeing from that Storm Spirit. Kind of hope he turns around and picks up a few nulls here, because there is going to be that limited range that you're going to start having to deal with. I think nice smoke, though, from Infamous. They would love to find Vitali, but I think they're very afraid. But
Oh,
here we
Oscar
go.
sure
Oh,
isn't. He misses the spear, though. Now the TPs are going to flood in. They're still going after the kill, though, with the ghost ship, but here's Gardic healing his teammate up. Vitali's going to hold his ground. Parker's BKB is helping him stay in the fight, but now Alone needs the snipe out. He's going to jump onto Gardic. They don't actually get enough damage for the kill unless this urn will not matter. Gardic's going to life drain a creep, and he'll be just fine, so... Ooh, El Misho. He got spotted. He's going to get silenced up. Oscar, another missed spear.
is he gonna...
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Oscar. And he leaves it for Analog as well. El Misho, what a player. Allows Analog to snipe it out with not the highest level Sunstrike in the world, but it'll do the job there, and now Hokori are onto the tier 1 tower.
Yeah, and really in that initial jump coming in from Oscar, I don't mind the jump onto Vitali. What I mind is they're not jumping the Pugna at the same time, as where Infamous need to go on 2 or 3 heroes. I don't even believe they used the hook shot to really get into that fight at all because it just grew. There were too many TPs from Hokori that made it too big of a fight for them to actually take. It's your first BKB used on Parker as well. They need to do a better job there. And I think Alone was more so focused on finding the Arcane Rune top than he was jumping with his Mars there. But it's that little disconnect that ends up, well, they lost their mid tower for it.
Also, you know, at the end of the day, Oscar, you got to hit at least one of those 2 spears that he throws out in the fight. They could have probably still salvaged something if they have that damage and extra stun. So his aim was a little off in that fight. Not the end of the world, but did cost you your shot at that kill. But, well, we'll see what they can do moving forward. The problem is, Hokori are starting to pick up some items. That Force Staff is now complete on El Misho. You got your BKB up for Vitali, as that BKB doesn't help Gardic as much. There's Alone gets taken down, and A goes in, hook shots in, cog pushback, X setup, and there's that BKB. Vitali says no thank you. He will walk away.
Yeah, a boat's a lot less expensive than the arena, so might as well throw it out. Who really cares? But yep, it's a nice kill on the Garnic, just a little bit too far forward, and I think it really is just because of the vision there. He got ahead of himself in the D ward, lost track of his opponents. Easy kill, easy pick off, but still think Hokori are pretty satisfied as this
Oh,
is.
Oscar, come on, man. Another missed spear is going to sort of break up this play, and now they actually have to just kind of run. Michael's going to try and use that scurry. It is going to be enough to get him out of there, but that's 3 in a row now that Oscar's missed, and 3 of 4 that he's missed now, excuse me. But either way, it's looking a little rough. Ori, are they going to smoke here? Yeah, they are. Okay. Everybody into the north side jungle. They're going to look to make some sort of counterplay. They know that the arena's down, and good instinct there from A. Flare the pit just in case, but at this point, Hokori, they're out for blood. They would rather not really look for Roshan. The problem is, they don't really have a target that close by. The nearest hero is Oscar and Alone, but they're both kind of under the protection of this tier 2 tower, so Hokori need a sort of off angle, and they are getting close. They run into A first, and Yuma actually gets knocked back by the cogs twice.
Yeah, just a little bit too far forward. Really nicely played as well, just playing near the tree line. It's almost the opposite way you want to play versus Tiny, where the CK constantly gets fogged, is very long cast times as Alone.
That's all of his mana,
Oh,
though. Now
no.
he's stunned. He's in trouble. A is going to try to come in to save him, and they do get a nice spear onto Analog. The Force Staff pushed him away momentarily, but they will still find the kill. They get El Misho as well, so both of the supports are down. It's up to Yuma and Vitali to turn this fight. They're going to try to get onto the Mars, but Michael channeling out that sharpshooter. It's a nice bit of damage onto Vitali, but with no one else here to actually follow it up, it's just a parting shot as Oscar gets taken down, and Hokori salvage a couple of kills out of that one there, but suppose at the end of the day, Infamous still kind of got what they wanted.
Yeah, they get the Invoker. It's a really great hook shot from A in the mid lane. Gets past the jump, gets past the Nyx Assassin in the Storm Spirit, cuts the lineup in half, and, well, then you're all stuck in the Kunkka spells, while Vitali, even though he has that BKB, can't really get through the cogs. So it's just very nicely played. A completely carried that fight, and I think this is where if Hokori are not all too careful here, they want to do Roche. They want to be the ones that get into that pit, but they are also the team that needs to find the clockwork to give themselves that opportunity. It's one of those slight aspects of the clockwork where you would want to start Roche. You would want to get in there with a smoke, but as soon as you stop showing, it will be able to scout you out. And without an Aegis, do feel like they're going to struggle a little bit. Unfortunately, they do know about A's ward in the top lane here, and they are pretty set up if they find that jump, but both teams are spending so much time in this top area. The carries are so happy in this game. Everybody who goes bottom just gets so ridiculously farmed.
They're just kind of being left alone at the moment. Meanwhile, Force Staff number 2 picked up on the Hokori side, so they're starting to get that going a little bit more, and that's going to make the clockwork a little bit less effective, but A is still looking for plays. He's a little bit further forward than he might like, though, but Misho didn't actually come in for the sort of wraparound one, so be able to do anything, and now there's the hook, getting onto the Pugna. They'll hit him up with the Bushwhack as well, and That's about as easy a kill as you're going to be able to pick up in this game. Parker, those looking for a little bit more, pushing forward, has the X at the ready, needs the vision. Will be able to throw it down onto Vitali. Sharpshooter being channeled out as well, but it's blocked by Almisho. They're still looking for the fight, though. Oscar comes in, gets the spear stun down. Vitali needs some backup. The arena, though, is going to be deployed, so Analog can't get in. Vitali's just going to have to hold his ground by himself. He gets the kill onto Parker, but will still fall. But now here comes Yuma into the fight. Alacrity on him. He's got those Phantasm illusions. He's just going to blow up A right away. Only hero that he could really reach within the time frame, so comes in, cleans up one. No real threat to the CK, but I think they were hoping for maybe a larger engagement after Yuma got involved.
Yeah, just aren't able to keep on those cores. At least you get the trade out onto the Kunkka. You know, you take him off the map for a very long time. He really is gets a lot of farm when he is just kind of left to his own devices. But it's also Vitali becoming a real core here. He's really becoming a threat. His item build is going to get really funny if he actually decides to build with this Hex, but I kind of like it. Just having that instant disable versus the Storm Spirit, it's where your draft is a little bit low in lockdown. You really are just kind of on the carapace and then keeping that chain stun going. And if he does get out of that, you're kind of SOL. But that's also where Alone, looking at this BKB, once he has his own, he's going to feel good. But Oscar is dead in the triangle, and now this is their start onto the pit.
Finds the kill. They'll just flood right over to that Roche pit, and this is, well, not really contestable. I don't think Infamous would get over here in time. A is not in position for a hook play either, so they might just have to let this one go. They'll get the Aegis to Vitali as well. Just going to try to run him right into the middle of those fights as, yeah, Michael's in some trouble. Sunstrike hits. Life Drain is not enough damage yet, and well, for a moment it looked like Michael might get away, but Yuma pulls him back in with the Rift, and will find themselves another kill. Hokori now on the rise. They've got Aegis in hand. They've got some creeps coming with them mid, so could push the tower. They could try to fan out and find some kills here as well, which for now appears to be somewhat their plan. But Yuma at this point, yeah, if he comes down here and there's someone to fight, cool. If there isn't, cool. He just goes right back to farming, and now we're going to start to see the damage aspect of this Chaos Knights build. He sort of went for a little bit of durability and utility with those first couple of items, but now Silver Edge being queued up.
Ooh, A.
Lock in trouble.
Help.
Good defensive hook. Ooh. He actually sidestepped it the first time, walked back into it afterwards, and Analog's going to be able to snipe out a kill.
Yeah, it's tough stuff for the Clockwork here, and very interestingly, they give the Aegis over to Vitali, I think because he is the one eating the brunt of this forest, but at the same time, Infamous's target is getting onto both Gardic and Analog at the same time here, but I don't know if it's really in the cards right now. They're really trying to dodge out here, and with Vitali getting the Ag Shard, well, the push is really fast. 8 stacks of magic damage on a tower. It's kind of brutal. This tier 2 is going to get claimed really just by Vitali by himself. If they want to poke the high ground, they really could if they needed to. Not to mention, with this Pugna, well, Vitali doesn't have mana issues. He just has Garda constantly giving him that available to him. And looking at the bot lane, do not want to lose Oscar right now.
TP now maybe, but he's going to... Oh. He's going to be able to blink
Tornado?
away. Does Analog throw anything? No. Thought that might be worth a speculative tornado throw, but sides against it. They'll hold the spell. We'll see now where they go, because if they want to push bot, they do need their creep wave to cooperate a little bit, and Analog's already sort of working on that. Forged Spirits are in here to try and push this lane out, and the rest of the lineup just creeping around in this south side jungle. Yeah,
we're kind of seeing Infamous dodging out a lot of these fights, and it's not like they're stopping the growth of their own strength here. Parker's about to have an AC. That's a huge damage uptick for the Kunkka. Is he gonna ditch that Cloak of Flames? Really? That's so sad. Bye, buddy.
Able to pick it up. He just keeps on walking, and that is unfortunate, but at least he keeps himself safe. He gets his AC. The problem is, the push is coming in that bottom lane. Tier 2 tower did not really last that long at all, and they can push the high ground. A is the only one in position at the moment. He could try for a little cog pushback, but Vitali's got the range to really not have to care. He just starts deploying those poison attack stacks, and This tower is just melting away. Sharpshooter, not super useful, and Alone actually going to try and zip in here on the backline with his BKB active. He doesn't have the damage for this, though, and Yuma is just right-clicking him down. They're going to force the retreat. The hook shot will now miss, and this whole thing is just sort of falling apart. Alone dies as Analog snipes him out with the Sunstrike. And, well, I don't really know what more they can do. Oscar's going to give it a go, trying to push his way in, but the Reality Rift will pull him back. They're still trying to get damage onto Vitaly, but even if they kill him, he's got the Aegis, so he's going to be coming right back up. So he will continue to stand on that front line and continue to get damage in onto the racks as Parker is able to get through that Aegis. But now they have to deal with Vitaly at full health and mana again.
Yeah, they certainly could. They still have the arena. They're going to have the sharpshooter in a second as well, but the real issue is Parker cannot really approach this fight here. They're going to lose the racks in a second. They've got a nice hit on Vitaly. It's a lot of physical damage, but yep, the Essence Ring with the Pugna behind him still, you're not seeing them able to dive deep enough. I'm really surprised that Alone chose to use all of his mana on getting Analog barely half HP here, then immediately gets decrept and Life Drain. It needs to be finding Pugna in these team fights. Otherwise, there's just so much they can output, so many resources they can just pump back into their cores. And the larger issue is that if Infamous ever use Parker's BKB, he can't show up to the fight. He cannot walk up into an engagement anymore whenever that's on CD. And unfortunately, there's no answer to that. It is just use your BKB better in the team fights. That's the only way they can really move around it. It sucks they lost A pretty early on as well, but they really just need to find a better way to use Parker. That's a really long zip. Alone?
Okay. Well,
And he's gone.
TP. Yeah, that's interesting. It pushes out the lane, but now his presence isn't here with the rest of the squad, so they can't really go any further than this.
This is tough stuff. If they find Yuma bottom, that'd be pretty big, but we'll get the scan, and then Yuma's going to do a 180. Yep. And they see him putting the illusions, but yeah, that's an unfortunate timing, honestly, right there. It's fortunate they at least get the word so they know to give up on the play too, but it's still kind of rough as Alone goes for another kind of hero play in the top lane, misses on El Micho. Really, Infamous are finding nothing.
I'm not really sure what Alone can do to try and sort of remedy the situation right now, because his impact is not quite as high as they need it to be. He picked up another Null Talisman, but in the middle lane, there's a bit of a fight breaking out here. Vitaly's trapped in the arena, but he's just going to pop the BKB and fight his way through it. Oscar very wisely decides to TP out while he had the chance, but that meant that A was stuck in the fight. Analog brings him down, and Hokori, well, they held their ground. Now they're grouped up, so they could go for another push, but at this point, actually, yeah, they could just sort of march their way mid and take a second lane right now, but as of right now, it looks like they don't want to take that chance. Last time when they pushed in through bot, they did have Vitaly's Aegis to sort of fall back on, so without it around this time, maybe they're going to play it a little bit more cautiously.
It's also knowing your opponent's getting Glyph back up here as Analog is looking for Michael. He actually... Oh, this is way too close.
It's okay for now, as the Meteor will miss, but the... Okay, the Deafening gets him the vision. There's the Yules, though, to actually cancel the TP, and Michael is going to get taken down. So Analog, he's got to use a lot of stuff to find that kill, but they will get it.
Oh, and as soon as he meets up with Kartik, then he's going to be full mana. You know, it's the great part about this Pugna pick. And yeah, I think before, instead of going for the mid-racks, knowing that they don't want to and really can't afford to go for this tier 2, swing 2 tier 2s or towers in your favor instead of just ramming your head against Glyph. Feels pretty nice, and now the threat is Megas. The threat is the game kind of just collapsing out from underneath you. Still have Kunkka. In terms of getting all these creeps dead and the illusions as well, it still does a fantastic job at him, but I agree with Parker. Look at that. Getting the Divine, needs it. He just simply doesn't have enough damage to make his BKB timing worth it. If he can kill them, if he can keep the chainstone going, you could see Hokori shatter. They would just be pins to be knocked over, but it's where Parker needs a little bit more gold, but also then cannot afford to really play aggressively anymore in this game. If he isn't the aggressor in those team fights, you're not going to see Parker stick around and then risk losing Divine, because at the very least, you know, if they do get Megas, Parker can hold the base, but it is going to be an awkward position to be in. This is a little bit of a desperation smoke, though. Into no vision, blind, onto Vitaly. This is going to get a little bit strange for Infamous.
Exactly. Look to go at this point. They're crossing over the river. Roche is back up, and Yuma's in the pit, so maybe they could make a long wrap, or they could just go straight in onto the next assassin, as they are able to spot him out quickly. Elmisha goes down. Hooks onto Yuma, pushes him back with the cogs, and now they're going to throw the ghost ship in, but this is kind of a distraction with the ghost ship fleet. It bought Parker enough time to TP away, and it also got him enough money to get that demon edge, so get the courier to the secret shop and back. He will have that rapier. Meanwhile, actually did get away. I thought he was kind of going to be sacrificed there, but he will live. Alone, meanwhile, zipping in onto Gardic on the back line, and they take down both supports. Not for very long, though. Gardic's going to buy back. Yuma's a little pissed. He wants revenge. He's going to push his way forward. The Kunkka did not purchase out that rapier just yet, so not going to lose it there. Of course, that does knock him out of range to actually buy it, but well, at least they don't give it up. In the meantime, though, Hokori go right back into the pit, but ooh, alone. It was worth a try. Zips in, can't really steal, but he was close. But at the end of the day, it's Yuma getting himself the Aegis, and I think he was the one to grab the shard there as well.
Yeah, and Alone zips immediately out of the fountain because he does not want to die in the fountain versus a Sunstrike yet again. But yeah, it's really nice timing now. They give the Aegis over to Yuma. Now they should be able to get that tower aggression back on, as I believe getting cleaned up by Analog and Elmisho. That's a nice free little kill for you there. But yeah, Parker just was forced into using his BKB so early on in that engagement. Vitaly just traded it out for his own, gave him a Viper Strike. Then your Kunkka can't really approach. They skip a few steps on Infamous as well. They're just playing into Hokori vision. They never do ward the cliff because A just doesn't have enough time to. He's too worried about the Roche, and it is an awkward spot to be in here. There's no buyback on Kunkka, and with this Sacred Relic, his items feel a little bit odd now, and it's going to be an interesting hold. The card's coming in really at the worst time for Infamous.
See Oscar just trying to throw the spear in there, try to slow this up as much as possible, but Yuma just keeps on hacking away. They take the middle lane of Rax. They'll rotate their way over to the top lane as well. They will have to swing back bot at some point to finish off this ranged Rax, but that's a concern for after they can sort of handle things top, as Yuma's just going to lead the charge once again. Parker, though, is back up and alive, so they'll try and make something happen here. Okay, they jump in. They get the arena. A misses with the hook shot, but they were able to snipe out the two supports once again, and now they've got Yuma sort of trapped up inside of the base, but do they have the damage to actually kill him? As of right now, it's kind of looking like no, but Alone is able to zip in. They get the Vortex down. The spear actually kind of pushes Yuma away a little bit, but still able to finish him off. The Ghost Ship fleet's still coming through, so none of these Hokori heroes can get quite close enough to provide immediate support. But I'm not sure they can kill him again. Yeah, Yuma's just going to pop the Phantasm, gets in with the damage. Oscar gets taken down, and they're still scrambling to defend this on the Infamous side. They're getting another buyback in as the Mars will rejoin the fight, but while this was happening, they ended up losing that melee Rax. Yuma, though, is in some trouble. He's going to look for the TP home while the BKB is still active, and Parker can't reach him in time for the kill.
And, ooh, they would love to get a kill on the Elmisho, and they should be able to find it, but yeah, pretty bad situation to be in. Only a ranged Rax alive. Hey, though, you hold for a little bit longer in the game. You use a buyback on the Mars. There's no buybacks on either support on Hokori's side now. Cores are still going to be fine, but at the end of the day, Parker got his Divine. He is Kunkka. He is looking for it. Analog is thinking about going for the Megas with this DD rune, but it'd be a little bit crazy, I think. Even if he goes for the BKB TP out with this Rapier, honestly, if Parker can find him in time, that would most likely just be a dead Invoker, but look at that. Alacrity, Fort Spirit. Backdoor will just kick in, though. Slightly unfortunate timing here, as Analog is now gonna have to look for his escape here, but Yuma in the river. Oh, Oscar.
That's a dieback for Oscar, unfortunately, so he's in some trouble, and Michael's going to get caught alone, though, is zipping in. He's going to pop the BKB. Parker looking for his moment. Can he just blow up Yuma? Not really. That wasn't that much damage, but now they are going to be able to get the Ghost Ship in there. That'll keep Yuma at arm's length for the time being, or maybe it won't. Analog comes in, drops down the ice wall. Parker's in trouble. Cannot afford to die here with his Rapier, but there's no one to help him. It's done. Rapier hits the deck. Yuma picks it up, and there's your GG.
Yeah, I think a really well-played, kind of easy game from Hokori. not enough lockdown, not enough pickoffs that were happening on Infamous's side. They really got into this rhythm of ignore the bottom lane, let Yuma farm, we're gonna let Parker farm, we're gonna see what happens when we collide here, but Oscar just missed a few too many of those mid-game initiations where simply the BKB on the Viper was too good of an answer for their mid-game response, and if you're, well, not killing Vitali, you're not getting the mid tower, you're not getting that map control that you really desperately need, and then you're kind of just getting broken down here. And even though I want to say on the Hokori side, it was also a very quiet game. They were really kind of walking into a lot of their plays there. It's not a very high kill game either, especially not for the Nyx Assassin, but didn't feel like the Nyx Assassin really needed to set up anything. As long as he was staring 3 heroes down the barrel of the gun, well, he knew where those 3 heroes were, and it's not like he was really dying either. And then at the end of the day, unless Alone is finding Pugna every single fight, I think they just made a few too many mistakes in that mid game. Not finding the Pugna, not getting those kills early, giving up the Roshan really with a whimper because of a pickoff or two from a smoke from Hokori is just kind of basic Dota stuff. It's kind of a sad way to go down if you're Infamous.
Yeah, it's a little weird, and it also sounds weird to say that we wanted to see more from Alone, considering he had the highest kill count on his team, 7, 3, and 7, but that was kind of the case. We needed more impactful plays from him, because outside of sniping out a couple of supports there on the back end, he really did seem to drop off in effectiveness. So, unfortunate if you're Infamous. Your lineup kind of falls a little bit flat. You lose a lot of that momentum, as you actually see from the graph there at the end of that game. There's just a massive swing around that 30-minute mark. So, for a long time, Infamous were pretty close, but they needed to be the team sort of pushing ahead and taking the initiative, and here to happen. So, they dropped the first match of this best of two, but it's a best of two for a reason. There's going to be a second game here for Infamous to try and find some redemption, a little bit of revenge perhaps, but Hokori are able to take the first game. We'll see what momentum does for them heading into that second match as well. So, stepping away for just a few minutes here, but when we return, it'll be our second game of the day, Infamous and Hokori going at each other once again. So stick around and we'll be